Good evening, namaskar, good morning and good afternoon in various countries, please. Clean air ASAP, as soon as possible, or something else. Because for time, we feel clean air was not possible, but COVID times proved by default that it was possible. But we cannot live like that. We want clean air by design and not by default. And this is what we are here to discuss today in this 1 hour of virtual meet with all of you. People from various countries are participating in it. Thank you so much for joining. This is an issue for everyone. Where I sit today, Vasant Kunj, New Delhi, and if I look at the AQI of Delhi, it's fabulous, people would say, in terms of numbers on the negative side. 745 AQI for Delhi, lowest is 404. I'm sure that must be the heaven part of Delhi because in Gurgaon it is 1098 and maybe we look at the Delhi airport or Ghaziabad, it is going to be going pretty up. Last year around the same time, London, the PM10 was 25 and it made the front page news. Around Diwali last year, in Delhi NCR, PM10 was 2600. Nobody bothered about it because we are so much comfortable in our discomfort. And this is a very dangerous situation we all face today. Clean Air ASAP is a joint initiation by Lung Care Foundation and Aspire Circle, not as a single program, but programs in continuity where we start actually looking inwards and start talking about assessment, solutions, actions, and progress. And this is so vital because we need to do all these three things in 3 steps. Wake up call, shake up call, and make up call. Why wake up? Because people are still sleeping. And you really cannot wake up people who are pretending to sleep. So therefore, you need to shake them up. But what happens after the wake up and shake up? We also have to make up collectively. No single entity, no single body can do it because the country is huge and humongous. These days, I get a lot of sarcastic comments. People ask me, hey, Rajiv, how much of air have you cleaned? And I look at them and say, hey, when was the last time did you have your food? So it's just an hour back. Fine. Why do you want food 3 times a day? Because you need to survive. Well, if you need minimum 3 times a day of food, you need 25,000 times to breathe in 24 hours. It is in continuity. No organization can clean up for you unless and until this 25,000 times a day multiplied by 1.35 billion people in India take this up as a cause. And when the majority will start talking about it, clean air will happen. But then we will all have to work towards it. And this is where we stand today. Today, we will be looking at things from 2 perspectives. Dr. Arvind Kumar shall be sharing very briefly in terms of the medical side of what's happening around, how air pollution and COVID has actually made us guinea pigs in terms of all kinds of experimentations and all kinds of tragedies, and what is there for us. And then our learned panel shall be discussing in terms of what do we need to do vis-a-vis assessment, solutions, actions, and progress. Let me invite Dr. Arvind Kumar. And before I invite him, special thanks to Mr. Amit Bhatia, founder Aspire Circle, for joining hands with us to start this movement called Clean Air ASAP. Dr. Arvind Kumar, my elder brother, he is the founder and managing trustee of Lung Care Foundation, ex-professor, All India Institute of Medical Science, a known celebrity as of today on chest surgery. You would see him everywhere on the television. The lesser I talk about him, the better it is. He is also the winner of the prestigious Dr. B.C. Roy Award for Eminent Medical Persons of the Year from the then President Dr. Pranab Mukherjee. Over to you, Arvind. Please talk about what's happening today before we start discussing clean air ASAP. Arvind.
Thank you, Rajiv. Good evening, friends. First and foremost, my sincere thanks to Amit Bhatia ji for this collaboration. We were part of a panel a couple of weeks back, and I was very impressed with the views expressed by him. And that time only, I requested Rajiv ji if we could collaborate and work together on this in this field. And it's very kind of him that in such a short time, because of the efforts of Rajiv and Mr. Bhatia, this program has materialized. And I'm indeed grateful to both of them, as also rest of you who are here joining this program for making it possible. The need for this program couldn't have been more, considering the kind of tragic situation that we are in. We already were hit by the worst pandemic of this century. And now, to make the matters worse, we have pollution added to that, which is making the matters worse, which is already obvious. In the whole country, the numbers had started going down. But if you look at Delhi numbers and nearby area numbers, the last 10 days or so, every day the numbers are increasing. We in hospitals are almost choked. Day before yesterday, there were 2 doctors who needed to be admitted. And trust me, it took us 5 to 6 hours to arrange bed for those doctors. The ICUs are full, the wards are full. Other hospitals, will I check, the ICUs are full, the wards are full. There is no more place in the hospitals to take any more patients. And unfortunately, we have one of our biggest festivals approaching, where people meet, greet, and eat together, which is violating the basic principles of corona prevention, where despite all the bans which may come from various statutory bodies, I'm sure the crackers will get burst and add to the already existing pollution, which will lead to tremendous increase in the number of cases. And I shudder to think what will happen to those increased number of patients at that time, when the hospitals are choked, hospitals are full, doctors are falling ill, doctors are dying. There are not enough people to take care of people, and there will be patients, patients, and patients. I don't know how we are going to handle that. Nonetheless, it's time to at least talk about the health impact part of air pollution, and also mention the links with the COVID issue. So in the next 10 odd minutes, I'll very briefly and very quickly take you through the various health effects. As Rajiv mentioned, we do breathe 25,000 times a day, inhaling about 10,000 liters of air. Initially, we used to read in our chemistry and physics that air has oxygen, nitrogen, and helium. But these days, we talk of these pollutants more than the natural constituents. So we have pollutants can be divided into 2. The particulate matter, or PM, which is again mentioned as 10, 2.5 or less than 1, depending on its micron size. And you have various gases, which includes carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur oxides, nitric oxides, carbon monoxide, and numerous other gases, including the deadly ozone. All these are now increasing in size. Just to tell you what the human hair is, it's about 50 micron in size. So you can imagine 20 PM 2.5 particles will make one hair size. It's that small. No wonder it goes deep inside the chest, gets lodged there, and causes permanent damage. Air quality index, a term which is derived from a complex algorithm which takes into consideration levels of 2.5, 10, carbon monoxide, SOx, NOx, and other constituents. It denotes various pollutants present in the air. It ranges from 0 to 50 being good to 300 plus being
I think there is some video issue. Pallavi, can you hear me? Yep. We'll wait for another 10 seconds. Otherwise, we'll proceed further. Okay, there is some connection issues from Sir Gangaram Hospital where Dr. Arvind Kumar is speaking from. We'll just check, and in case he could join us from the telephone. Shri, could you do that, please? And in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save some time and quickly introduce our panelists. And in between, if Arvind joins, he will continue with that, and that'll save me my time in terms of introducing the learned speakers who are going to be here and who would be discussing Clean Air ASAP. Our first panelist is Colonel Vijay Chadha. Welcome, Colonel Chadha. Colonel Chadha is, started his career in 1968 in the defense and took premature retirement in 1992. Since then, he has been the CEO of the large corporates in logistics, travel, and tourism space. He has been part of Bharti Foundation since 2008 and has been involved in the free quality education to over 40,000 children with special focus on the girl, child, and marginalized communities through its 254 schools across 6 states. He is currently the CEO of the Air Pollution Action Group, APAC, with a focus on reducing air pollution levels in India. Welcome, Colonel Chadha.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's an honor for me also to welcome Mr. Mihir Bhatt. Mihir leads All India Disaster Mitigation Institution with disaster risk reduction and resilience, building work in over 80 districts and 53 cities in India. Currently, he's busy with emerging uncertainties in marginal environments such as coastal cities, delta, and desert settlements. His clean air-related pilot address challenges, action planning, accountability to affected populations, citizen participation, and intersectionality of clean air campaigns. Mihir, welcome. Thank you so much for finding time for us. And I have the honor of quickly introducing Motashi Sengupta. Motashi is a social sector professional with more than 26 years of leadership experience in developing, executing, and evaluating organization-wide program strategies. With developmental institutes of global repute, specific areas of expertise include developing and executing program strategies, institutional grant making, developing frameworks for measuring results for intervention supported, and in establishing appropriate management reporting arrangements. Motashi is incidentally also a certified coach. Welcome, Motashi, please. Thank you so much for joining us. And may I also have the honor of quickly introducing Shweta, with whom we have been working for quite some time, and we are always very impressed with the kind of input she gives and the contribution she makes. She is an environmental health researcher working with grassroots communities in helping understanding the environmental and social impacts of energy choices. She coordinates Healthcare Without Harm's Healthy Energy Initiative program in India. As part of the program, she works with health professionals in developing policies on educational health and also assists with the development of climate resilient and low carbon system policies in Indian states. Thank you so much, Shweta, for joining us, please. Shweta. And of course, we have the honor of also having two powerful ladies from Aspire Circle and Lung Care Foundation with us. Pallavi Khanna, who's the director of Aspire Circle and leads it with various activities. Thank you, Pallavi, for joining us. And Machuri Shetty, who is the Director of Programs and Strategy with Lung Care Foundation. She's been part of us since inception, and she is virtually looking after everything here. We call her the boss at Lung Care Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us. Majshri, could you check with Arvind whether he could join us or we could continue?
He's already joined, sir.
Can you
Fine.
see my slides?
No, not yet, Arvind. I just thought I could save time in introducing our panelists so that...
That's very kind of you, Rajiv.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just switched
Doesn't
off.
matter. Doesn't matter. Now you can show, please.
Sir, you can just share the screen and switch off your video.
Yeah.
Using the link.
Is the slides visible now?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You can see the slide?
Yes, Arvind, we can.
Okay. Can I continue?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So the as I said, the pollution is not a Delhi-centric problem. It's something which is present across the country, and many people ask this question: does it impact health at all? The answer is yes. People also think that it only affects the lungs, so they ask this question: which organs of the body are affected? And I just show them this picture to tell these are the only organs in the body affected. Your brain is affected, your eyes are affected, nose is affected, lungs are affected, hearts are affected, liver, gastrointestinal tract, pancreas, urogenital, bone, joints, blood, and skin. I don't know what is left after that. And these are all scientifically proved studies where large number of people have studied the impact and have shown detrimental effects because of pollution. The worst affected, and something which I see with my own eyes every day, is the lungs. To your left is the picture of a real pink lung as we are born with, and to your right is the picture not of a smoker but of a Delhi resident. This is the kind of lungs we have, and I see them with my own eyes every day in the operation theater. It's not something which is only present in India. There are a large number of countries where this is prevalent, and nearly 7 million people are losing their lives every year because of the health ill effects of air pollution. When you look at various organs affected, you will realize that nearly 40% of the deaths because of a disease called COPD, where our lungs become weak. So lungs are the worst affected. That is the 40% of the COPD. Diabetes is now being linked more and more to exposure to air pollution, and about 20% of diabetes deaths are related to air pollution, where air pollution is a contributing factor. You will be surprised to learn that nearly 20 to 25% of the heart attacks, there is a role of air pollution. And it has been shown that whenever there is spike in the levels of air pollution, a few days later, all hospitals notice a sudden increase in number of people presenting to their emergency with heart attacks and the number of heart deaths. Similarly, 20% of lung cancer is caused by pollution. You will be surprised that 1/4 of the brain strokes or paralytic episodes are related to air pollution. So also pneumonia deaths, particularly in the under 5 population. And most shocking is the picture to your extreme right. It does not even spare the babies being nurtured in the mother's womb. Enough studies have now shown that when mothers inhale toxins, it goes and affects the babies also. People ask me, how much is the impact? So there is a conversion formula that 22 microgram per meter cube PM 2.5 in terms of damage to the body is equal to 1 cigarette. So if today your PM 2.5 is close to 500, it's almost equal to about 20 to 25 cigarettes per day. So that much without smoking cigarette, because of breathing in this air, you are damaging your body as much as the smokers are doing. And sadly, this damage starts from the very first breath of our life. As soon as the child comes out of the mother's womb, takes his or her first breath, it's the same air which goes inside his lungs also, and the child becomes a smoker from the very first breath of his life. And now many studies are saying that a lot of congenital defects, intrauterine growth retardation, death of the baby inside, premature birth, preterm birth, and a lot of deaths related to delivery time are actually related to exposure to pollution. Unborn babies, children, and elderly are the worst affected. A few words about this India specific problem. A large part of our rural areas still use this solid wood chulha inside the house where the lady of the house is cooking, and usually little children sit around there, eat there, the whole family actually eats there. There is Dr. Sandeep Salvi from Pune who has done a lot of studies on these children, and he has found PM 2.5 levels to be close to 20 to 25,000 microgram per cubic meter in this smoke which comes out directly from the chula. Imagine the plight of this child who's inhaling 20,000 microgram per meter cube. And I'm really grateful to Government of India for the Ujjwala scheme, where the government is making sincere effort to replace this chula with gas. Of course, there are problems because people feel that this chapati is irreplaceable, and we are trying to help them by promoting health messages in that area. It reduces IQ development in children, and overall, if you look at the effects on the heart, effects on the lungs, effects on the brain, effect on other organs of the body, effect on the newborn, the children, the elderly, overall, there is no one who breathes and can say that I can escape the ill effects of air pollution. So I would say that it's a national emergency which needs awareness, awakening, commitment to do things better, and then only we'll be able to solve this problem. Now we have COVID, where this is actually becoming a real major issue. There is enough evidence now that the coronavirus attacks your lungs more if there are high air pollution levels in this area. And there are studies available from China, from Europe, from US, which have pointed towards two clear-cut things. Number one, if there is high pollution level, there will be more incidence, higher incidence of coronavirus in that area. And number two, those who get coronavirus disease will have higher death rate. So pollution affected communities have more chance of getting corona, and patients have more chance of dying of corona if they are already affected by pollution. So what do? Either we sit back and continue our work, or we become an eco crusader. Now, a lot of people these days are talking about smoke towers, air purifiers, blah, blah, blah. I have a very humble appeal to make. Can you contain the air inside one space? Air does not know any boundaries. There is no Delhi air and UP air and this air and that air. Air is a one continuous column which transcends national boundaries, leave aside the provincial boundaries. And therefore, to say that I will install a smoke tower here in Connaught Place, which will clean up the air, is like, just closing your eyes to the real problem and presenting a solution which is actually no solution. It does not make sense to let the air be made dirty and then say we are going to clean it. Friends, the real solution lies in preventing the air from getting dirty. We all know what the sources are. It's the use of fossil fuel which is adding most of the pollutants to the air, and a transition to a clean and green economy will be the way to go forward. Choice is ours. Either we can continue to close our eyes, continue to do the way we are, and have a future where our children will not be able to come out of the houses without a gas mask, or we act today and give the children a future where they actually will have a choice to play in open field. Thank you very much for your time. And I do look forward to working together with all of you to solve this problem. Over to Rajiv, please.
Thank you so much, Arvind. As usual, this was something that you have actually helped all of us open our eyes and take charge. Clean air ASAP. Is it as soon as possible? Definitely. Because we needed it yesterday, we are already delayed. But at the same time, when we work on the Clean Air program, how do we focus on the assessment, solutions, actions, and progress? Let's start the discussion. We may not be in a position to find all the solutions today. We may not be in a position to concretize the entire program today, but at least we start talking about it today and move towards concretizing some positive affirmative actions. So I have already introduced our worthy panelists. Now there are some questions which I'm going to be discussing with them. And for my audience, I have a special request. There are two tabs, Q&A tab and the chat tab. If you wish to ask any question, put your question in the Q&A tab. I'll read it from there. And if you wish to make a generic comment, keep it on the chat box, but kindly avoid writing hi and I'm from this place because that may distract everyone. Just focus on, in case you have an idea, and I would be reading and maybe I may read out your comments too. And of course, there are some students also and who would also be keen in terms of getting the e-certificate. So at the end of the session, once you fill the feedback form, give all your details complete and correct, and you will receive your e-certificate by the end of this week, certainly. But make sure that your name is written correctly and email is written correctly, because if it is not .com but .con, we cannot reach you. And of course, to my panelists, I have a request. We'll be very brief in giving an answer so that we play a T20 tournament. And the moment you finish giving your answer, just mention Rajiv, and I'll get a cue that, okay, now I have to start taking over. And before we get into this discussion, let's engage our audience with a quick 10 seconds poll. I'm going to share the poll with everyone here, and everyone should participate. And this poll is very, very simple, and I'm sure it will be visible now. Number one, how do you view the role of civil society vis-a-vis the current state of air pollution? Is civil society a contributor, sufferer, both, or none of that? And the second question is, should civil society bring a major change in their strategy towards the management of air pollution in their day-to-day working? So answers have started coming in. Right now, there are 140 participants, and the answers are coming at a very rapid pace. We have already crossed 60. Fabulous. Even the panelists can also give an answer. 40 seconds are over. I'm going to wait for another 15 seconds. Let the answers cross 100, and I should be in a position to close this poll and share the results of the poll. And thereafter, we'll start getting into our discussions on clean air ASAP. We have crossed the halfway mark. Tomorrow, of course, is going to be a different kind of results coming on the television. But today, let's look at how people are viewing air pollution and its impact and the stakeholders' role into that. We have touched 80 people responding to that. Okay, guys, let's move faster.
Rajiv?
Yes.
Rajiv, can I sign off? I have.
Yes, I understand you had some emergency
I had
to look after.
patients in the OPD,
yes.
Actually.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you. All right, so here we are closing our poll, and let us see the results of the poll with 60% people having polled. And the results are now being shared. The results say, how do you view the role of civil society vis-a-vis the current state of air pollution? I hope everyone can see this. 83% people feel that they are both contributors and the sufferers. And should civil society bring about a major change in their strategy towards the management of air pollution in their day-to-day working? 99% people say yes. So these are very interesting results which we will keep in mind in doing our deliberations. So I'm just closing it here. And let me now start asking some of my questions. And the first question is going to be more of a warm-up question. All the panelists can respond to that. 15 seconds bite, please. Since your childhood, what kind of transition have you experienced vis-a-vis clean air? Colonel Chadha, please.
Yes.
Let's start.
So when we talk of my childhood, I must put it in perspective that I'm 69 years old, so it goes back a long time, right? So, I mean, it's the change is unbelievable. I mean, the sky that we used to see, the air that we used to breathe, and the health that we used to have as children, I think that's now, to even call it a dream would be, far-fetched.
So here is a 39-year-old person with few more months of age talking about it. Let's move to Mihir, please. Mihir, what is your experience? Yes, Mihir. You have to unmute yourself, Mihir, please. And may I request the panelists to unmute themselves?
To say it briefly and graphically, this is my experience.
Oh boy.
When I was born and I was 23 and 33, 43, 53, no use. Last 10 years, this is my use.
Oh my God.
Rajiv, to you. Thank you.
Matashi.
Yeah.
Don't show me that. Okay. Yes, please.
So one of my fond memories of childhood is, waking up in the morning, and when I opened the door, I used to take this long breath of air, and it just sort of filled my lungs, and I just felt really nice with clear skies and basically a little bit of breeze or wherever. And West Bengal, where I come from, I mean, the freshness was, you could breathe in the freshness early in the morning, really filling you up with energy. And today, in fact, sitting here inside my house, and I'm very privileged to be part of a South Delhi home. My eyes burn and my throat is itchy and my nose is in a bad shape. So the transition is very clear for me. Yeah.
Absolutely. You said it. I'm also sitting in South Delhi and actually panting. Now let's hear Shweta, because she is right now sitting in a village and responding from there, and she definitely enjoys cleaner air. Shweta, please.
So yeah, I was just wondering, my story is kind of in a reverse cycle. I grew up in eastern part of India in the coal mining belt of Bihar and Jharkhand and West Bengal, sort of a cusp of that, Dhanbad and Bokaro. So Steel City, coal mining belt. So air quality was not that great for me, I would be very honest, while growing up. I mean, it was relatively still okay. I mean, now things are even worse. And but it was not a pleasant experience. However, now for the last 2 years, and it took us a drastic step to move out of the city, and we've moved to the Western Ghats. We are in the Ghats right now. We're in a very small village. And we don't have an air monitor, like a government air monitor anywhere. So I can't tell you what is the air quality over here, but my own home air monitor tells me that it's under 10, the PM 2.5. So I don't have anything to come under 10.
Are you sure 10? We are absolutely jealous of you.
There are days when it's 0.
Oh boy.
So so I don't have anything to complain right now.
But why should you?
It's a reverse experience for me.
Maybe you could send some blessings from there to all of us, because I'm not going to ask the same question to Pallavi and Matushri, because in Gurgaon and Ghaziabad, what is the current rate, we also know at the moment. So let me come straight to a very pointed question to Colonel Vijay Chadha. Why is this demand for clean air still not a top priority for common man?
So, I'm surprised that after looking at your respondents, where 99% said that, action is required by all to make a difference, right? And yet, the point that you make, that the common man doesn't seem to be engaged. The common man is not taking it seriously. We have a lot. There are two aspects to the entire thing of pollution. I think Dr. Saab has clearly told us as to the damage which it is causing, but I think we have to put in remedial measures as of yesterday. Yes. A lot is happening, but not enough. And nothing will happen till it becomes common cause for all of us. citizen engagement is key. There are a lot of actions at the macro level that the government has to take. Pollution sources are identified, right? Actions which have to be taken are known, but they have to be put into effect. A lot things have happened, CNG buses and the like. And, today, as we speak, there's a new committee which has been formed, which has replaced EPCA for managing air quality in the NCR. And I'm sorry, I'm taking a little bit more time, but I'm delighted to share that the Air Pollution Action Group, we are one of two NGOs. Our founder, Ashish Dhawan, is a member of that committee. And in 2 days, they've had 3 meetings.
Wonderful.
And we are just 1 year old. The other NGO is TERI. So the government seems to be serious about it finally. But there are numerous actions in our daily life. One is, of course, demanding for clean air and making it a mission. But even in what we do, each one of us can make an impact.
Sure.
Each one of us can make an impact. So I think
that's a good starting answer. Thank you, Colonel Chadha. Let me just move to Mihir. Mihir, you have been working in terms of disaster management all across India. And this is just a development in Delhi NCR. My question to you is, who is responsible for this mess called air pollution and why? You have to unmute yourself, Mihir, please.
Yeah. Rajiv ji, I'll start with say that we all are responsible. I'd like to put it on somebody else, but I can't. It is absolutely we as citizens. We as citizens, we are responsible. We as people who work, educated people, uneducated, rich, poor, corporate, non-corporate authorities, we are responsible. But the major part I want to say who's responsible is this particular economic development path that we have taken. We've taken a path where we have too much dependence on the energy sources which are pollutant. And unless we address that economic path, as Dr. Ranvin very clearly said, we are not going to change this. So we have to move a path which is clean economic development, green economic development, and have the co-benefits of that economic path. Then we will be at least performing our responsibility.
Thank you so much. I wish we all realize it as early as possible and we work collectively towards that. Madhushi, my question to you is, WHO says AQI should be less than 10. Government of India says, 50 is okay. But now in Delhi, we also understand the range is 300 to 1400 as of today. And on top of it, there are not enough air monitoring devices. I know about Northeast, where the air monitoring device by the government is located in Guwahati, measuring the entire Northeast of India. So how serious do you view the intent for results and extent for action as of today?
Thanks. It is an existential crisis, I feel. I mean, frankly speaking, if we are not able to deal with clean water, pure air, and basic food for your own existence, I mean, I don't know what we are doing as collectively as part of the human race, honestly. And unfortunately, this doesn't seem to translate into votes, I feel. And so it doesn't get as high a level of attention as it requires at this point in time. But I think we are already over the tipping point in many ways. And it's really important that we get all our horses together to say, how do you actually address an issue, a deep issue like this? From a funder's perspective, I mean, we came in to work on climate change in 2015. And though air pollution did not form part of our, part of our key objectives at that point in time, looking at the situation in 2016 winter, which is when it really hit us hard, we sort of made a detour and we said, no, this is something which affects everybody. It's not something that it doesn't differentiate between the more educated, less educated, more, economically privileged to less economically privileged. It just affects everybody. So we said that, this is something we really need to attend to very quickly. However, at the same time, I mean, philanthropic capital being what it is, and it is the rarest form of capital that is available, one is not able to look at supporting large scaled up interventions. So you look for ideas, you look for niches where you can make a difference and where you can bring in others to say that, this is what is required, this works and this does not work. So over the last 5 years, we have made several grants to that effect, and will continue to do that because we also feel it's a matter of equity. I mean, bad air affects everybody, but probably the poor are even more affected because they are the ones, spending time going to office in this weather where you and I can have the privilege of working from home. So, how do you make things clear for, more helpful for those people? And that's not an easy job in any way. It requires action by everybody. And I would agree with Mr. Bhatt that, it's not any one person who is responsible. We all are responsible in it. However, we do need to have the right mechanisms to reach out and address, because we can't, I think we have passed the stage where we just say that we are collectively responsible. We also need to figure out what could be the pathways, where you can bring in a change. And that is something it is taking much longer than expected. My sense would have been that, we would have been in a better situation in 5 years' time. This is the 5th year we are facing this level of pollution. But sadly, I think we are still quite some way behind.
Thank you so much, Matsri. That's been very exhaustive and really appreciate that. But now the question which, and you're talking in terms of last 5 years, but now let's also talk in terms of the next 4-5 years. And this question is for everyone. Just move in with your comments, and you can even disagree with each other. Generally we say, okay, people should do, we all should do, we agree. But generally people say, what is the government doing it? And the government says, oh, we have National Clean Air Program. Now the National Clean Air Program says, by the year 2024, we will try to reduce the pollution by 20 to 30%. And I've had fights in various conferences where I say, if the AQI of Delhi is 200 in 180 days of a year, and other times it is more, that means by 2024, even at 30% success, we'll be having 140, which is 14 times the WHO standards and 3 times the Indian government standards. So the question to all of you is, how serious do you see these efforts happening on part of the government? Even though we say we have commissions, because Colonel Vijay Chadha, High Court of Delhi said, we are not interested in the commissions. We are interested in clean air.
Yes.
Now this platform is open for everyone to answer, please.
So Rajiv ji, if I may just take on from there, I think you mentioned the National Clean Air Program, right? One of the objectives of our foundation was that we want to assist the government in implementing the National Clean Air Program wherever there are city action plans. But let me just put that in perspective also. The NCAP covers just 133 cities of India, right? And only those cities have a clean air plan. But if you go to every city in India, other than, of course, beautiful places where Motushu is sitting and my little home in the hills, there are exceptions where you get clean air, but the pollution extent would be unimaginable. Like you rightly pointed out, we don't have the ability to measure. You can only, get air quality index, AQI, if you have the monitoring systems in place. And we don't have enough monitoring systems. Wherever clean air plans exist, they are not being implemented. They remain on paper. And that's why we said we will work along with the government to implement that. So even in this little thing of trying to achieve a 30% reduction in the next 3 to 5 years, there are more than enough gaps. So it's extremely worrisome. The rate at which we are going, I think, we just cannot imagine the consequences that we'll be headed into. This has to be an emergency. The government has to put in far greater resources. It has to be a combined effort, but it has to have a start at the macro level.
Sure.
There must be a clear plan of action from the government to say what are the resources they're going to allocate. We know what are the pollution sources. They have been identified. What is the clear action plan for each one of them? What is the expectation from each agency? And what is the expectation from the general public in terms of what they need to do as individuals, as families, as communities. So I think,
I'm enjoying this discussion. Shweta is actually trying to butt in now. Shweta, what's your response to that, please?
See, honestly, I mean, yeah, it sounds good to have, a commission or a national clean air program or, different mechanisms that government invariably comes up with just like a few days before the crisis hits us every year. That's been the typical pattern. But honestly, to be very frank, I don't see a political intent or will to do something concrete. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you have, in all goodwill, if you see government coming up with various commissions and plans, you have another department of the government coming up with various plans that will contribute to air pollution.
Exactly.
Well said.
The classic example, you look at COVID and air pollution, and then you look at the coal mines that are being auctioned off. How are we going to solve this crisis if we continue as business as usual? We've not learned any lessons. Next year, again, when we have, air pollution crisis hitting us, we will be talking about the same commission, probably a new commission. So I mean, as citizens, we contribute. I mean, and that goes back to your poll, Mr. Khurana, because I don't see myself just as a contributor or a sufferer. I also see myself as somebody who's engaging to solve this crisis. And a lot of us, in the last 5 years of discussion, a lot of us have understood our role in terms of agitating or demanding clean air. I mean, that of course needs to...
Your voice is breaking, Shweta. Yeah.
But, this is a valid... But it's a valid question that what is the government doing when citizens are demanding clean air? You can't just set up a commission and say we have done our job. Where government is supposed to plan, it's supposed to bring all the departments and have an integrated action. I don't see that. Right now, what we hear, and sure enough, Delhi NCR has really poor air quality. But we have places in the country, and I mean, I work with pollution-impacted communities across the country. In Chhattisgarh, we have Raigad, we have Korba, we have North Chennai and Tamil Nadu, which have this poor air quality throughout the year.
Absolutely.
There is no action plan. There is no commission for those communities.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, where mark right now?
Mihir is itching towards responding to that, please. Mihir, please.
No, I would say that the national action plan for clean air is very welcome plan. What I have hope about that is that the performance is far slower than we all can actually afford that. And it's a national government plan, but I don't think government alone will be able to implement whatever resources, whatever willpower and authority it may have. It has to be opened up far more for civil society and local organizations, corporate structures to actually get in and help implement this national plan that we have. And the 20 to 30% is just an indication. It's a minimum performance that we have. We must not stop at that, but go far beyond that. And that's not possible if we don't do four things. One, the awareness about the plan itself across the country, across the cities, need to go far more than it has so far. Second, the investment which is going into the national plan, Government of India, city level authorities, also private investment, donor investment, foundation investment has to be higher than it has been so far. The third is the governance of this plan, what mechanisms we will have in a whole wide range of cities and districts, geoagroclimatic locations. So how that will unfold. And the fourth and the last one is that we don't only want to have a plan which will clean up the air, but we want a plan which would actually reduce the pollution itself, the sort of preventive plan. And for that, we have to de-invest, we have to degrow, we have to depollute areas which are already polluted. So how do we address that? That's something which needs to be addressed. Thank you, Mati.
Before I move to Matishi, what you have said is very valid, because much more than the stronger plan, we need a stronger execution. And Matishi, when you are answering to that, please do respond. When the resources are constrained, how do foundations and philanthropies can actually add to this? So now you got two questions instead of one.
So, in fact, my response is very closely linked to what you just said, Rajiv. I think, we have these plans, and which is a welcome step forward. However, I think the focus has all turned to the outcomes in terms of, what we want to achieve, and much lesser in terms of the process that we need to follow to achieve those outcomes. And that takes resources and a lot of planning to say that, okay, if I'm looking at, at the end of the tunnel, this is what I'm trying to achieve, what needs to happen today. And that level of perspective planning is totally missing from the whole scenario. As funders, I mean, each of those plans, even if you take one single city, are fairly expensive to execute. And so I mean, there is no special prizes to guess why people have hesitated in terms of getting in there. But I really, really wish, all funders and government could come together to actually see through at least even one plan to its entirety. I mean, that itself can actually, move the ball quite an extent. And that will mean not just working with government. It will have to mean working with private sector, working with communities, working with encouraging people to take public transport, burn less waste. There are several actions that need to be taken. And so, I think we are oversimplifying the issue just by saying that we need to, what good is the plan? But to get that plan going is a really, really big job. And whoever takes that on will need to work. That said, I would also like to say that in each of those decisions would actually involve trade-offs. And it is not easy for us to say that heavy industries is a large power guzzler, means taking decisions to say that, this is, we will not go to the place where we are supporting or investments for more heavy industries. Or if we are supporting heavy industries, then we need the technology that enables us to make the processes much more energy efficient. And that again requires money. So it needs to be thought through in its entirety. It's not something that I think we can do it in a piecemeal basis. And one of the reasons I feel that we have not seen the type of results that we should have, through the actions that have been taken in the last 5 years is because we've been addressing it very piecemeal basis. It is not going to solve the problem. Whatever our capacities are, even if we are able to pool it for a smaller geography and get it going, I think there is hope and promise in that, rather than just saying that we'll take different elements.
Very well said, Mautashi. And Dr. Arvind Kumar was talking about clean air. The need for clean air should be treated like a national emergency. What is stopping all of us in terms of shouting, demanding, maybe getting onto the streets and say, hey, I need clean air because my unborn child is also needing clean air? What is stopping us to keep air pollution on topmost agenda for all our CSR activities? Because you may have plenty of funds in various activities, but if you're not able to breathe properly, what use is that? What is stopping all of us? Mihir.
I think Rajiv ji, it's an issue of awareness.
Okay.
I'm not sure everybody is aware as to how much damage it is doing to them, right? And what it means. And like you rightly said, people have to be out demanding clean air. Every individual, before casting their vote, or when the politicians come out to seek votes, should say, clean air ka kya plan hai aapka, right? And that has to become a major issue for people, for the government. I mean, in these few minutes, we can't find a solution.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
It's too complex, but it's clear to say that one, it has to be a priority both for government to actually plan and to start taking action. It can't be when we come to October, November, we start creating a noise. It has to be year round and over the years, right? And for people, daily basis. What is it that I can do? People must be made aware to reduce air pollution. Whether it's household air pollution through burning fuel, whether burning garbage, disposal of garbage, the little things that we do, what we throw on the road, how we lead our daily lives, whether we can cycle or walk when we have to use a car. From there till demanding clean air. So I think it has to happen from both sides. But most importantly, I'm delighted that, Amit and you have come together to, create this platform. So this way we have to heighten the level of awareness, and not only with all of us who speak English or who have, access to these kind of fora, but even for people who don't have any access, I think there has to be a process. NGOs and all have to get engaged in actually spreading awareness about the hazards of air pollution and what it is doing to our lives and to our health.
Well, first of all, I must say that it is not Amit and Rajiv alone now. It is all of us together into this.
Okay.
Secondly, हम हिंदी में आप ज़्यादा काम करते हैं और हमने हिंदी में बहुत कार्य किए हुए हैं और हम वो करते रहेंगे. And Shweta, let me just ask you this question, because you have been helping Lung Care Foundation, leading us with the Doctors for Clean Air program, where Shri is helping us. And we have actually gone down to that level in multiple languages, even having asthma manuals in 12 Indian languages. Now the question is, what is your response to this in terms of putting it on the topmost pedestal?
I mean, it's absolutely, it's a no-brainer that, not just air, clean environment and good health is a fundamental right. So it should be on the top. I mean, I'm surprised that it's not on the top.
No, the question is, with all the funding bodies, agencies, everyone says, fine, first clean air, then nothing else. Because if there is no clean air, there is no food, there is no water, then what are we living for? Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting excited because I think it is important to get inspiration from national level anchors.
Again, I can't differ in any opinion on this because it's a fact. It should be there. I think along with it, what we also need to, I'm just going to take a little bit a deeper look and say it's not enough just to say clean air, because when we aspire destroying our ecological resources, where we are talking about a way of living which is which is based on consumption, then it's very hard to then it becomes a matter of trade-off. That okay, we want to have I used to live in Chennai, and I've come every election, all our politicians over there would promise Singapore for Chennai. Arey bhaiya, let's Chennai be Chennai. But the Singapore model or the Shanghai model of development, where we have flyovers, where you have cars, and where you have, Chennai had a plan which citizens defeated, which was of an express highway, where it was explicitly said, it was along the beach, it was a coastal highway, and in the EIA, it was explicitly said it's only for cars. It was not for buses. It was not for public transport. So we have that way of thinking. We have that way of development being presented, that dream being presented of what our cities should look like. Our cities should look like, with green spaces, with more people on the streets and using parks, not people wearing face masks, as Dr. Arvind mentioned. So, we also, while we are demanding clean air, I think we don't have to stop demanding just at clean air, but also express our vision of what our futures, what our cities, what we imagine our cities and our places where we live, where we work, where our children go to schools should look like. Because if we don't articulate that demand, unfortunately, we will be always sold a dream that comes with pollution, that comes with destruction. So,
Thank you so much, Shweta. Thank you. You have just got 3 minutes left. I wish I had more time and we could get into more discussion. But to Machri and Pallavi, I'm going to give you 1 minute each in terms of what are your respective organizations going to be doing it. What have been your experience? Pallavi, please, quickly.
Thank you. So actually, unlike the enlightened audience we have here, who feel that 99% feel that they should be contributing, our experience hasn't been as good as that. And which is why we launched the Clean Air program, and where our basic aim is to create awareness, wherein we don't only expect the government to work and deliver results, but actually bring about behavioral changes among the common citizens, and so that they can make a difference. Things like using public transport, moving to plant-based food, so many things that can be done. So our program is focused on that, ensuring proper waste management. So our plan is to work with RWAs, municipal bodies, and the local government bodies in terms of getting them to get the citizens engaged and deliver results.
Thanks a lot. Machri, your 1 minute, please.
Yeah,
thank you, Raji sir. Crucially, Lung Care Foundation the last 5 years has been engaging with the public and just talking about the pollution levels that are increasing all across the country. So I always say this, that by default, we are working in the sector of air pollution. We are primarily an organization working for lung health. But because we are in lung health, and air pollution is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing, that's how we have come into the sector. While working in the field of air pollution, it was very crucially understood that Dr. Kumar and Voices of Doctors was found to be really very strong in turning the narrative around air pollution from an environmental, something that's out there and it's an environmental issue, to something that it belongs to me, as in it affects my health. So therein, Lung Care Foundation has created many ripples through the Doctors for Clean Air program, which is a pan-India program, where today we reach out to more than 200,000 doctors through 20 national medical associations who are now committed to working on clean air, and are doing immense work in terms of educating the public and the patients about the health impact of air pollution with respect to, specific to their specialty. So it is we are associated with FOXI, who are talking about importance with pregnant women, pregnant and young children, with Indian Academy of Pediatrics, similarly with cardiology, neurology, and many other specialties. So that's one of our primary projects. And another critical project that we are currently working with the US Embassy is the SHAN project, wherein we are taking multi-stakeholder dialogues across the Delhi NCR, wherein we are talking to them about air pollution, creating policy situations of policy dialogue, creating awareness, doing surveys, and releasing out educational videos, informative educational videos for bringing about the behavioral change that is expected out of them, to be sensitized and to really create action on ground with respect to air pollution. And in the past, we've also done asthma manual, which is now translated into 11 different languages, which Sir had already mentioned. So there are a whole lot of activities that we are doing with and engaging with.
Thanks, Shri. I think I'll have to request you to now. Yeah. Let me just take over. Thank you so much. And those who wish to know more about us, the SHAN project, Saaf Hawa or Nagrik, kindly visit our website, www.lcf.org.in. But before we sign off, I have a question for all the panelists. And the question is very simple. India at 75, year 2022, 15 seconds bite each. What are your predictions and what do you suggest are the preparations needed? Panelists, please. Mehir, Colonel Chadha, Shweta.
Well, I can start with hope. India at 75, reduced mortality due to clean air, lack of clean air, reduce affected population due to clean air, reduce economic losses and employment losses by India at 75, and damage to infrastructure as well as to services due to lack of clean air. That's a reduction. I also see increase for India at 75, an increase in terms of best global expertise that we have for the use. We also have best available know-how that we can use for that from each other, because we are learning a lot as a country. And third, we must have very good citizens movement, which will take this clean air program further. So these are reduction and increase in those three areas.
Colonel Chadha, please, quickly.
So I will just keep it very simple, Rajiv. I mean, there are so many things that we can ask for from India at 75, but I have only one dream, which is my original passion, which still carries on. It's education. If quality education for every child in India, which means every government school must work and must be a great school. If we can't do that, we can't find a solution to any of our problems. The answer will come there. Then people will start demanding for what is their right and for what is right. So India at 75, quality education for every child in India.
And Lung Care Foundation has been working with 7 cities, multiple of 25 schools each in a city. We have best clubs, Breathe Easy State of Clubs, where school children are working, phenomenal work. Visit our website and you will actually see the glimpses of that. Mochri.
Well, to me, India at 75, my aspirational vision is that, governments compete with each other to provide
Wow.
cleaner air, water, and, clean food, because that would actually be indicative of a lot happening on the ground with communities, with civil society. The change will happen only when all that comes to place, then governments will start competing with one another.
Shweta, as usual, you'll have the last words, please. Important ones.
I mean, my last words are basically what Mr. Mihir Bhatt, what Kannan Chadda, and what Matoshu said. And each citizen at India at 75 should have a life with justice and dignity. I think that should wrap it up.
Absolutely. So India at 75 should have air which is worth breathing, clean air absolutely for all, even beyond 122 cities which are accounted for. And we all pray this is the initiation of a dialogue. This is not a complete dialogue itself. This panel will keep meeting. More people would keep joining us. We will keep talking about clean air ASAP, assessment, solutions, actions, and progress. Very rarely my time goes overshoot, but I have taken the liberty of adding a couple of more minutes to conclude that. And I must thank all the panelists for very briefly and very succinctly putting across all their ideas. And I'm sure in times to come, we'll pick up one issue each and go much more deeper. Thank you all the panelists for joining us. We are indeed very, very grateful. And of course, this video recording should also be, after editing, be put on YouTube and Facebook, and the links shall be shared with everyone, to all our audience, and then you can also reshare it with others. And the quotes of my panelists would also be available on Twitter and other social medias, because what they say is fabulous and it must spread out. And I must also thank all my team members, especially Dr. Arvind Kumar, Dr. Bilal, Dr. Harsh, Abhishek, Matri Shetty, Charu Dhingra, Kritika, Siddharth, Hamid, Judith, Neha, and Shalini, because a lot of work has gone behind the scene, and this program is not possible without that. And of course, Aspire Circle, the entire team, convey our regards to Amit also. This has been a very fabulous initiation of our partnership. Thank you so much.